Hey, Spilled Milkers. How are you all doing? Welcome back to another Ask Me Anything. I guess first things first, Hope in the Water premieres Wednesday night on your local PBS stations. Check for the listing in your local area. It's a project we've worked 12 years on since the initial genesis of the project. We've been shooting it for almost 3 years. Excuse me, I am in a hotel room, as you can tell. And yes, I am in Aspen, Colorado. It is the end of the Aspen Food and Wine Classic. But yeah, tune into Hope in the Water this Wednesday night. Please tell all your friends. I posted about it. If you're watching this, you subscribe, which means you got Thursday's post about it. So please spread that around to all your friends. I don't ask selfishly. PBS documentaries, you know, this is not how one gets rich. It's how one changes the world, or at least tries to. And this documentary is worth everyone's attention. We want to see it have a really great opening number on Wednesday night. So please tell all your friends about it. The week previous saw the James Beard Foundation Awards, what used to be called the Oscars of the food industry. They've come under fire recently for giving awards to chefs who, as many bloggers, do they still call them bloggers? Food writers and other folks who like to take shots from the sideline have lambasted them for choosing winners in categories who those writers felt didn't deserve it. I'll tell you something. As someone who's been a part of this organization for, decades, I can tell you that going back to the era of when old white men voted for other old white men, there were still the same arguments going around and around. And I think that organizations like World's Best 50, like James Beard Foundation, like Michelin, like, anyone else who makes a listing of what is best in a given category. And that includes the New York Times and other newspapers and city monthly and weekly magazines and everyone else who comes up with the list. You pick someone, you pick a winner, you're going to get a lot of shit for it. And I've yet to see someone come up with a perfect example of a good organization that's doing it 100% the right way. So did I disagree with some of the choices? You bet your ass I did. Were some of them head scratchers to me? Sure. Does that mean it needs to be said out loud? Does that mean it's up to me to say it? Maybe the answer is no on either of those counts. What you do is you try to make something work and be better. But a lot of people make money through clicks by taking pot shots at people who are trying to do the right thing. Okay, enough about that. What I'm listening to these days, Blake Mills. I got on a Blake Mills listening jive. We're going to put links to this in down below. Blake Mills, just an incredible guitarist. I was lucky enough to see that he posted a guitar that he was selling on Instagram. So I bought it. And, he was selling a couple of them. And I wound up buying one. And I got the nicest note from him. I told him I was a huge fan. I was hoping the guitar was still available, etc. He said, yeah, I was the first person to chime in, and he'd be happy to sell me the guitar. And I reminded him that I started doing, fanboying. I met you many years ago at this and that place, and he remembered and said that he liked my stuff and was glad the guitar was going to have a good home. And I'm just like over the moon on this one. I can't wait. So I'm listening to a lot of Blake Mills. If you don't know don't look it up, don't do anything. Just listen to the selection below of great Blake Mills stuff, and you will be a fan too. An incredible guitar player. What I'm reading these days, I told a friend a month or two ago about this book, and because I haven't picked up a good book, I said I'd read a good book, then I read some trash, good book, then trash, good book, then trash. There's a book by Adam Rapp that came out in earlier in the spring called Wolf at the Table by Adam Rapp, R-A-P-P. And it is about a family in the 1950s and the kids and all their disparate experiences. And I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but it is just an incredible tapestry of family values and what lurks beneath the surface of a so-called great society. So I encourage you all to read it if you like good books. Wolf at the Table by Adam Rapp. Link to that is down below. This past week, before I came out to Aspen, I was at a Hope in the Water premiere in Chicago on Monday. It was the first time in 20 some odd years that I haven't been at the James Beard Awards except during COVID. So it felt a little strange, but a huge thanks to, Lucas Walton, the Shed Aquarium, the people at Builders Vision, PBS, WTTW, everyone, Hydro, that was our LA premiere. All the other incredible sponsors. No, Hydro still sponsored that. San Super A Wine, all the people who helped make the premieres possible. We had a bunch pop off all around the country. In Portland, Maine, I wasn't able to make that. Up in Napa Valley, in LA, in Chicago, where I was able to attend those two. It was just incredible being at the Shed Aquarium and in front of behind the dolphin pool. They lower the windows and they used a screen on the shade. There was an incredible setting. And as we aired some clips, when a solution was offered, this moment where you realize in the story that we were sharing with the audience that some success was going to be found in creating broodstock by these shrimp farmers in Minnesota. The dolphins came out and started jumping around, getting all squirrely. It was amazing. Even the dolphins liked it. I was at the Emmys before that. The daytime Emmys went down since I spoke to you all last. I was nominated, lucky enough to be nominated in two. One as a executive producer because the show that we made, Family Dinner, was nominated. So that was fantastic. And I was nominated as host for the work that my co-host Zoe Francois and I did in the Magnolia holiday dinner special, which was, I think it was called Zoe and Andrew's Holiday Dinner Special. We invited a bunch of friends over to Zoe's house and we cooked a Hanukkah and Christmas celebration simultaneously. It was a lot of fun. It was great to be nominated. Of course, everyone who gets nominated says that, and everyone who loses says that. And went home 0 for 2. So my official Emmy tally, I want to say, is like 1 for 7. That's below the Mendoza line. But hey, it is what it is. Nice to be nominated. But seriously, big thank you to the Emmys and congrats to all the other nominees and to the winners. Let's see. Oh, loved hearing everything. The poll results were incredible. A lot of people chimed in. We're going to take all of that, digest it. We are going to do more of what you asked for and do less of what you didn't like. So that's phenomenal. Let's get to the questions. Chuck writes, you talked about how delicious some processed and emulsified meats are. Yes, I love processed and emulsified meats. But there's one that doesn't make the Zimmern list, as it were. Nicely done, Chuck. By the way, that's what I won my Emmy for. Not to yum on your yuck, but why does... God, Chuck, you are clearly we're in the same boat. Why doesn't Spam get the love? It's made from pork shoulder and ham, not scraps. Though for scraps, Scrapple is a go-to. I don't care what it's made from, although I have a hard time believing that that the same people who put shelf-stabilized meat with lots of ingredients that I can't pronounce into a cardboardish tin-framed box would just put pork shoulder and ham in there. But it's not about the scraps. I happen to love the price point. I love that it's shelf stable, which means it's easier to transport and move because it's food for people that are oftentimes hungry. The problem that I have with Spam is the taste of it. I just don't like it. I don't like the taste. I don't like the texture. I don't like the fact that it's made shelf stable. That just seems, meat products that are processed so heavily and made shelf stable. There are so many other things that you can crisp up in a pan, like Scrapple, like different types of head cheese, like other meat products that don't go through all the processing that Spam goes through. So on one hand, I accept it. On the other hand, I get to have the choice in my life of not eating it. So I choose not to eat it. Or give it a lot of love. But I defend anyone's right to eat it. Joe writes, chef and fellow deadhead here, music question for you. Is there a band or artist or song you've been too embarrassed to admit you like? He picked ABBA. ABBA's a great band. Although from the same era, I have some that I'm freely able to admit that I love it. It's all the 1970s stuff, especially 70 to 75, 76, that I listened to as a young kid before my musical taste changed, although actually more 70 to 75. By 76, I was firmly off and doing into much better music. But all the bubblegum stuff that was on AM radio, stuff like Starland Vocal Band's Afternoon Delight and The Night Chicago Died and all of those crazy, goofy songs. But then I also liked some of the yacht rocky stuff that came out back then, like England Dan and John Ford Coley, and the band America, that had that song Horse with No Name. So, yeah, I like it, but I'm not embarrassed to say that I like that. Marcos writes, can you shed some light on your addiction time? Recovering people like me would love to hear it. Well, there's lots of places online that you can find that story, so I don't want to take the time here. Maybe what we'll do is I'll tell my story once and we'll post it on Substack so those that want to listen to it can listen to it. But suffice to say, I was a horrific user of people and taker of things. I was a long-time addict and alcoholic, and kept it going until I couldn't keep it going anymore. Went homeless, squatted in an abandoned building, slept on a pile of dirty clothes, stealing Comet cleanser to sprinkle around those clothes every couple of nights in a ring so I had a place to pass out when I came home to this abandoned building, to my little area. And I sprinkled the Comet cleanser there so the rats and roaches wouldn't crawl over me at night. It was a horrific way of living. And I stole some jewelry from one of my godparents, and it was horrifying. Cashed it out, got a bunch of, checked into a flea bag hotel and tried to drink and drug myself to death. And I woke up and I wasn't dead. And I plugged the phone back into the wall, and called a friend and asked for help. And that is the secret to life, is actually saying, I don't know how to do blank. Can you help me? I didn't know how to do life at all. And I immediately took it back, but my friend came down and dragged me out of that hotel room and organized my intervention and got a one-way ticket to Minnesota. And that was almost 12,000 days ago, almost 32 and a half years. And it is the greatest gift I've ever been given, is sobriety. Couldn't even be a parent without being sober. Patrick writes, should Joey Chestnut be allowed to compete in the Nathan's contest? Absolutely not, as long as he has a sponsorship contract with a hot dog other than Nathan's. See, here's the deal. When you compete in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, you sign a whole bunch of stuff. And Nathan's, by the way, has done a really great job at making Joey Chestnut a lot of money. And what Joey Chestnut did is he went out and signed a sponsorship deal with a vegan hot dog company and Impossible Foods. And very explicitly in the contracts for these types of contests, and I'm used to them because I have those kinds of exclusivities in all kinds of deals that I do. He can do whatever he wants. He just can't endorse a hot dog company other than Nathan's and still compete. So it's really cut and dried. And you want to know something? Joey Chestnut will probably win in the sense that he won't be in the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, and someone will pay a lot of money to have him eat off with whoever wins it. Not sponsored by Nathan's. Connie writes, what are some of the staples of American Chinese takeout that you like to riff on? Oh my God. Well, it's not so much riff on. I mean, I tend to make it pretty straight up. I love Chinese food. I love Chinese American food. Egg foo young, huge one. Chow meins and all that kind of stuff. I love Cantonese food, and I love the interpretations of Cantonese food that Chinese Americans have sort of made their own here. I mean, the stuff that I don't like, just, you know, I'm not a big cream cheese wonton guy. That just doesn't really do it for me, but I love wontons of all other types. Let's see. Cynthia writes, hi, I know you have eaten a lot of stuff, but have you ever eaten skunk? We tried to do it in a show once, and we were unsuccessful in the hunt. And like raccoons and other things, the glands that provide the stink have to be removed. Raccoons don't have a defense mechanism, a gland that actually sprays, but they have other glands inside them that contain a really awful tasting thing that can taint the meat. So you just have to clean the meat differently. I saw this the other day. So many people, every time my crab cake recipe gets posted, people ask, why don't you use Old Bay? And the fact of the matter is for two reasons. Number one, the person who passed on the original recipe to me, it didn't include Old Bay. And the reason is they like a really clean crab cake in the sense that you just want to taste that crab. So all the other ingredients in there, there's only like 5 or 6, support the crab. Old Bay, mostly because of the celery seed. Celery seed, which is in Old Bay, is a very, very, I mean, you can't mask. You put a little celery seed in something, just like putting celery in something, you will taste it. And celery seed that's in Old Bay is a very dominant flavor. So are a lot of the other flavors as well that are in there. And so when you put that in there, all you really taste is the Old Bay. Now, I love Old Bay. I love those Old Bay, that collab they did with the goldfish. I love Old Bay in restaurants that, you know, do steamed blue crabs and sprinkle it with Old Bay. Although I happen to be a bigger fan of, what is it, J&B's number 11, which is the only competitor to Old Bay, and only people in Maryland will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, just not my thing. And I don't think it works great in that recipe. Sandra writes, I have a dear friend, also a fine chef, Daniel Orr from Farm in Bloomington, who's soon taking himself on a little vacation to Savannah. He asked his hive for recommendations. They were okay, but okay. My places that you should go to in Savannah, Georgia, Olympia Cafe. It's Greek Mediterranean food. It is spectacular. Great fried seafood. The Gray, Mashama Bailey's flagship, Beard Award winner, one of my favorite restaurants in America. Mrs. Wilkes Dining Room, which is just got, I mean, all the classics, right? Fried chicken and, turkey necks and all. I mean, it's just, Mrs. Wilkes Dining Room is unbelievable. Go to Elizabeth, a great seafood restaurant. Broku's Family Tradition is a new restaurant by the chef, by the former chef of Royster in Chicago, one of Grant Achatz' restaurant. Moved down there with his family, opened Broku's Family Tradition. Think oysters and whole fried chicken, and really, really smart cooking. Spectacular. And The Wild, spelled W-Y-L-D, which is incredible location on the water, serving primarily seafood and all sort of traditional low country fare. So there you go. There's 5 or 6 good ones for you. Beth writes, what are good restaurants in Toulouse, France? My editor actually shot me a note when these questions came through and said, do you know about Toulouse? You're like, yeah. Toulouse is an incredible culinary capital of the world. And it is it's referred to as the Pink Town because of the color of the stone used in so many of the buildings. It is on the Garonne River in France. And, tons of museums, historical and religious buildings, but it's extremely famous for its food. Toulouse is the home of cassoulet. It is one of the homes of foie gras, and you can sample both in so many restaurants in the city center, the old city, the new city, you name it, it's there. It's also really close to Spain, so it has some Spanish influence now that things are a little... in the last 100 years, borders and cooking styles have been very porous in that part of the world. 100 years ago, it's not that the borders were necessarily closed, but French cook French food, Spanish cook Spanish food. But now, along those borders, things are very porous. Michel Serran, Sarran, is a Michelin-starred restaurant. There's a place called Au Pois Gourmand, Poisgourmand, modern French cuisine. If you're looking for something a little less spendy, Le Gentil Maigre, Gentymagre, old recipes sort of reworked for a more modern time. There's another great one that serves classic French food called Les Salgos, Salesgosses, another classic place. The other thing is you can just wander around the old town and fall into just about anywhere and have a great meal. But I'll give you a couple more in case you're interested. Restaurant Emile, Emile, more like a bistro. Le Cenacle, Cenacle, fancy Michelin-starred place, delicious. Magnum, another bistro that really, really good. But a place that's not really on a lot of people's radar screen that I thought was fantastic when I was there is a place called Le Détaillant, Detaillante. They serve sandwiches on incredible breads. And you know how the French are with breads. And yes, so that means you can get the best jambon beurre, buttered baguette with ham on it that you can imagine. It is absolutely delicious. All right, that's great. Until next week, adieu. Watch Hope in the Water. Let me know what you think.